Broadcasting from the commodity capital of the world, Zurich, Switzerland, this is Insider's Guide to Energy.
This edition to Insider's Guide to Energy is brought to you by Fidectis. Go to www.fidectis.com for more information.
Broadcasting from the commodity capital of the world, Zurich, Switzerland, this is Insider's Guide to Energy.
This edition to Insider's Guide to Energy is brought to you by Fidectis. Go to www.fidectis.com for more information.
Welcome to Insider's Guide to Energy. I'm your host, Chris Sass, and with me, as always, is Johan Oberg, our co-host. Johan, what's happening?
Nothing much, I'd say. It's coming out of Easter weekend, which has been a tremendous good weekend for us here in Europe, having a few days off, but ready to go again. And today, very interesting topic.
I am really interested in this topic because, we hear about the energy transition. We hear about storage and batteries and these giga plants being built all over the place, and we're going to end up with a lot of batteries. And then the question is, what's going to happen to all these? Where are they going to go? And what happens in the future? What's the life cycle? And I think maybe we're going to touch on that today.
I hope so, but also who is part of this one? Who will help us and who will drive this? Because I have a lot of questions in terms of who plays the role in this ecosystem.
Yeah, and for me, when we talk to the guest, I think it's early innings, right? I think it's still it's a little before the cart, maybe, but I mean, we're starting to see the EV revolution. We're seeing a lot of batteries out there. So the question is when do they become obsolete, and when do we need to start thinking about the life cycle, or is it something we should be doing now on the front end?
Yeah, and as we always love getting new startups and new scale-up companies into this mix as well, which is great. All right, welcome to the show, Roman. Alberti, the CEO of Voltfang. It's great to have you here. As we always said, we know a little bit about you. You know a little bit about us, but our listeners might not know anything about either you or us, hopefully about us, because they're faithful listeners. Why don't you give us a quick introduction of who you are and the company you represent?
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, my name is Roman. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Voltfang. And actually, it all started during university. I was doing mechanical engineering here in Aachen with a specialization of renewable energies. And during my studies, I was working at Mercedes-Benz. That was like the first connection to the automobile industry. Then I was working at Ego, at a small startup from Aachen, which are manufacturing like small electrical companies, because actually I didn't like it too much in a big company. So I was trying out some smaller companies out there. And then during my master's, I was working as an energy consultant to see, looking at houses, seeing, does it need a PV system? Does it need a heat pump? How can we optimize the energy consumption of this one? And bringing actually these two ideas together, on the one hand, getting batteries from electrical cars, and on the other hand, getting households and kind of getting new ideas to households. And therefore, we are starting right after university with Voltfang. And what we are doing is combining both together. So we are actually using pre-owned batteries from the cars. That means from Tesla Model S or from a BMW i3. Then we are testing the batteries afterwards. and the good ones will be integrated into our storage systems. And then we use these batteries, for example, Aldi, or for bigger companies, to just use use the daytime energy from, for example, the solar rooftop, and then store it over nighttime.
Cool. So one of the things I always wonder about as a startup, and Chris knows more about this being the startup, I'm more the corporate guy, but one of the things I've always fascinated about people taking the leap of starting these companies and really going for it, but especially in something like this, as coming out of university or as at least fairly early in the career, and then going to negotiate and start negotiating with large OEMs. What was the biggest challenges here in the beginning?
Yeah, for us as three students starting a company, it's pretty tough to go to automobile manufacturers when you knock at the door at Volkswagen, and then you're trying to get some batteries from them. It's almost not possible. So the first time we were taking the car, taking a trailer hooked on, driving to Norway, getting the first batteries actually from Norway, from cars, and then driving back to Germany and installing them into our storage system, integrate them. That means you have to take care of the software, you have to take care of the hardware. So a lot of integration work taking place there. Then we are building up the first storage systems, and then after a while, it's getting easier. When your company is growing, you get more people, you kind of get the first connections to the automobile industry, because you're kind of staying in the loop. Because at the beginning, they're saying, okay, please go away. You are three students. You cannot do anything working with us. But when they see the progress in you, and they see you want to go forward, you get more and more traction, and they see the process from being three students to getting more and more into that game. Then the door kind of slightly goes open, and then it keeps going. And now we actually have a lot of partners and getting batteries from contracts from OEMs.
What's your mission specifically? So you're taking batteries from OEMs or used batteries. You're using them for commercial storage, is what I heard you say. So what specifically is your mission right now to achieve? What are you trying to achieve?
So it was, the first thing was, of course, what is happening with all the old batteries, and what is, because we are using the batteries in cars. Of course, it's a good way to use them, and then afterwards nobody knows what's happening with them. Most of them are getting burned right now, and getting less and less again, or not that many as actually getting recycled. So our question at the beginning was, what is happening to all the batteries? We have to do something about that one for this one. So that was kind of the initial point for it. And yeah, now we know we can use it for a lot of use cases. So we can, for example, use a battery for self-consumption optimization, which is for us the standard use case at the customers. That means we use daytime energy from the solar rooftop and use it over nighttime, and then you can combine it actually with peak shaving and with other use cases, which is good for to stabilize the grid at the company.
So that means that if you're looking at your customers and your potential customers, are they buying a battery, or are they buying a solution, or what are you offering them?
Like right at the beginning, it was for us important that we don't see the energy system like as a small system. So we go to the company and just say, okay, we want to optimize the energy consumption of the company, because we that would be pretty easy when we say, okay, we just sell our battery as a standalone product. But that was not our case. We wanted to say, okay, we want to be part of the energy transition, and that's just possible when we sell the battery always in combination with the inverter, and always in combination with the energy management system. Because this combination of the whole package is actually opening up all the other opportunities in the energy market, that we are not just being focused on the one customer. So that we can also go for intraday trading in the future, that we can integrate different use cases for the customer. So right at the beginning, we said, okay, we want to have a turnkey solution. We want to have it as easy as possible for the customer, and also being more than just a battery provider. So being part of the energy transition.
So in my opening, I asked the rhetorical question, you know, are there enough batteries? And I think in our pre-call, I brought this question up to you as well. So what I understood is you said, "Hey, we're worried about recycling of these batteries, getting the most use out of them. So let's say after an EV is done with them, there may be 60% or some percentage left of the battery lifetime. So you take these and turn them into something that you could monetize or use. Um, so how do you get there from today? Because today people are still buying EVs, and EVs got lots of miles and lots of charges in them, right?
Yeah, that's totally right. We have to see it on two perspectives, like on two steps actually. Because right now, the most of the batteries we are getting are not end of life batteries. The most of the batteries we are getting are from prototypes, from developing cars. So they are actually in a very good shape. They got used for 1 year, for 2 years. For example, a big fleet they got used on the streets for 1 year. Afterwards, they were not allowed to be on there anymore because they got the different testings on the cars, and then they got back to the manufacturer again, and so the manufacturer cannot use them anymore for new cars. And on the other hand, they're very very good, and it's ways to not use it anywhere else. So that's like the typical batteries we're getting right now. And so far we're not having a state of health of like what you said, like 60 or 80%. Most of them are right now of 95, 98%. But this one is actually different to the strategy we have in the future, because there will come more and more batteries from end of life cars. And therefore, we actually got the testing on a level that we can see, okay, this battery can be used for 1,000, for 5,000 cycles. We can use it in this use case. And therefore, we have to see it a little bit different. Right now, we get the batteries from developing cars. And in the future, we will get the batteries from the end of life batteries, and we will have to have the testing ready for seeing, okay, which battery can be used for which use case perfectly.
So what is interesting as well, you mentioned this with the OEMs, and if you have the test cars today, you will have, obviously, we see the growth of electric cars in the future, and we will then obviously will have more and more batteries. Uh, but usually when a market grows, more stakeholders comes in as well. And I know that there's quite a few of the OEMs that are looking for their own kind of end of life battery usage.
Mhm.
Is this a competitor, or is the market so big anyway? So this is just kind of helping it grow.
Actually, what our feeling is of the market right now, there are some of the OEMs which are actually doing it by themselves, or which are going into that direction. But that's actually just a few or one or two companies out there. The rest is actually having problems, right, or having challenges right now with a lot of other things. They have software which they have to develop. They want to do self-driving, keep pushing that forward. They also have to go for electrification of all their models. So they have to be focused on their own part. And we don't see us as a competitor for them. We see us actually as a part for them to get benefits out of the batteries, because they don't want to get small customers. They don't want to install the batteries. They don't want to do all that stuff we are actually focusing on. So we are kind of complaining, or kind of being a part for them to monetize their batteries for them. So we don't actually see them as a competitor. We more see them as a partner for the future.
You mentioned also that this is a solution. It's not just batteries. Batteries are just one element of the solution you're bringing. And there's software to monitor, and you talked about maybe even trading on the market with it. So, talk about the kind of software and what kind of innovations are needed to make a system like this come together.
Mhm. So from the software side, we put a lot of our engineering actually in the testing itself. So actually, the half of our engineers are not working on the product itself; they are working on the testing, and we are getting the batteries from the manufacturers onto our site. Then we do the test, which is taking quite a while and being very advanced, and then afterwards we are monitoring these batteries at the customers. And for example, when you buy a battery of us and we say, okay, we have a degradation of 0.5% over the next 2 years, and then we see, okay, it's not right. We don't have 0.5%. We have like 0.4% of degradation. Then these test results are actually getting from the monitoring of our customer back to our loop, back to our testing, and improving our testing again. So we have a focus on software, how to evaluate and how long is the lifetime of the batteries. That's the one component of our software. And the other component is, or two other components. The one is the BMS, what we are focusing on, because we have to understand the battery management system, because every module is a little bit different for the battery management system. And the other thing is the energy management system, where we are saying, okay, we are actually, therefore, we are going for an open source platform. We are using, it's called OpenEMS, which is like a very big platform where you can integrate yourself, and we are part of the association. And therefore, we are kind of integrated our battery for that. And these platform enables then us for going for example, intraday trading, or going for other benefits in the future, because it's such a big community and everybody's working there together. And then we see our batteries just as an asset.
So as an amateur on car batteries, or a novice on car batteries, I worked with car and the electricity car industry for a while, and there's a specific timeline. Depends on who you ask in terms of how long the battery for a car can last, and we can always discuss that, what is right or wrong. But there's a limit in terms of years. For your solution on the secondhand batteries, I guess first of all the specification is not as rigid as it is for the car, so you can use them a little bit longer. Obviously, that's the whole purpose of the secondhand. But what can you give me kind of an indication how long a secondhand battery would be feasible then for a store or for a house, or
Sure.
depending? How long would it last?
It's of course always depending on the battery quality you're getting into and using for yourself. In our case, we are just using batteries which have more than 85% of rest capacity. But in general, like you said, we were going forward with our idea, going directly to the customer and saying, we do have a product here which is 30-40% cheaper than everything you find on the market right now. And therefore, the customer always came to us and said, that's a good idea. I like it from the environmental part, but I'm worried about the lifetime. So that was always the first thing which comes in the head. And therefore we said, okay, we need a solution to get rid of this challenge for us. And therefore we said, okay, we are coming with a double pack approach. It's called from Voltfang. That means we are taking the double amount of batteries too. That means when you, for example, buy a battery of 100 kilowatt hours, then we are actually providing you with 200 kilowatt hours of battery. And then we minimize the window of operation of the battery of 50%. And therefore, we use the battery just in the optimized window. For example, you know that from your laptop, from your cell phone, you shouldn't charge your battery actually in the top 20-30%. And this is because of lithium plating, which is one of the craziest aging processes we have in the battery. And therefore we said, okay, we just get rid of this one, and we're just using it part of the battery. And now we actually have a lifetime of 10 years and 10,000 cycles, which we are giving to our customers. And that was kind of the game changer. Of course, the price is now not 30-40% cheaper than everybody on the market. We are just a little bit lower than Asian manufacturers, but we have 4 times of the cycles in our warranty, and we have 10 years of warranty. So we had to do this trade-off, but now the customer sees our product like in a top edge product and sees, okay, I don't have any disadvantages, I just see the advantages of Second Life.
And of the customers that are signing up, are these folks that are basically setting up microgrids? Are they having solar on property? Like, where is your sweet spot? Who's looking at you today? Because it's still kind of early, right, in these kind of deployments. So who are your early movers?
Sure. Yeah, it's normally like this, that most of the customers are coming with self-consumption optimization. That means they have a solar rooftop on their rooftop, and they want to charge the battery with this one because it's the most known one. Everybody knows it, and that's kind of the opening door for us. And then these customers are coming to us, and when we see, okay, what can we do, and can we maybe get some other use case as well? And then we are saying to them, okay, we do self-consumption optimization, but we also combine it with peak shaving. We also can integrate charging stations for you. We can also go for intraday trading. which is right now not possible directly, but we have the first pilot project actually in the mid of this year where we do exactly this. And we say, okay, in the summertime, you can go for your use case. And in the winter time, where you normally don't use your battery, then we are trading for you, and you can also get a benefit from your battery, even though the sun is not shining that much.
So would that have an impact on the customer offering? Because if they can actually make money, so to speak, on their batteries with intraday trading or with certain other areas, how do you build a business model for a customer? What are they buying from you in terms? Is it a service and is it a partner collaboration? How does it set up? How does it look like?
It's a little bit different from now and in the future as well, right? Right now,
Yeah.
the customers are just buying the battery,
Mm.
so they get the benefits over the energy costs. But in the future, we also are doing subscription models where we are just finding out, okay, what's the right way? We want to go for a base fee as well, and then get a small fee on top of this one. This is something we try out with some customers right now, but it's not the product we are selling in masses right now. So the normal product for us is just buy the battery and then get the benefits in the future from your billing from your energy provider. But it will change in the future.
Do the energy providers see you as complementary in helping them scale, or do they see you as competition against them?
Um, it always actually depends on the person you're talking to. I can say it like this because there are some people from the grids, from the grid providers, who are saying, okay, you're part of the energy solution and we need batteries out there, so please be welcome. And then there are some and want to do it by themselves and say, okay, we want to have the total control of our grid and we don't to have some other players playing around in this field. So it always depends on the person a little bit, if they are open minded for new technologies and for startups, or if they want to stick to the old world of the energy providers.
And in multinationally, are there countries that you find that are more open to your business model and countries in Europe that are less open, or all the EU open to your model?
We're actually right now just focusing on Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. We are just right now evaluating which countries are also interesting. But right now, I'm not quite sure because we are pretty much focused on the German speaking market.
But is that mainly due to business wise or because it's a product fit? Because I think you can approach a market differently, right?
Yeah, it's the biggest market is a German market in Europe, at least. I mean, we have bigger markets in China and the US, of course, but in Europe, it's Germany. So the first natural step for us was to say, okay, we go into the German market and then spreading out over there. And now we have such an overwhelming customers coming to us that we are saying, okay, get get the German market first, scaling up our production, scaling up everything right, and then we can expand to other countries. It's just a matter of scaling up. We cannot scale up so fast that we can now go into different countries like directly.
So when you talk about scaling, I think this is one of the key challenges and key opportunities for any growth areas. We can always build a service that suits a certain challenge, fix a certain problem, but when we talk about scale, it's a totally different one. So in your book, moving forward, where are the opportunities, or let's say the challenges in scaling? Is it manpower? Is it access to the batteries? Because it feels like customers are ready.
It's, I think, the coordination between everything what we have right now. That means when we're scaling up, we cannot say to our suppliers, give me more batteries, go, 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 and the price is going down, which is normally the case when you have a lot of customers. You can go normally to your provider or to supply chain and just get even better prices. And for us, of course, it's not that way, because when we scale up very, very fast on the customer side, we get a problem with the supply side. When we are having too much supply and having too less customers, we also get a mismatch. So it will be the management between getting customers and getting the supply chains, and also in the middle getting the production scaled up, and all of these in a manner that we can control everything and get our quality and what we want to have on keeping that on that level. So that will, I think, be the challenge for scaling up the most.
Where are you today as a company in maturity? So, you started the prototypes, you said to get the hardware, you hopped in a car with a trailer, you brought initial batteries. Are you at the part where you're getting investors in point that you can get a lot of gear in the lab now? Or are you still kind of going as bootstrapping, I guess would be more or less what I would think, or are you kind of at production scale now?
Yeah, we started actually 3 years ago. That was just directly after university. Like I said, getting the batteries, and then like actually one of our first investors was one of our first customer. Our first customer actually, he was buying the batteries, getting then a little bit of money into the company, and therefore we were able to get more customers and getting everything ready. And this was all pilot projects and starting a little bit. And now we have a fully functioning production, which is now running for around 6 months. And so we produce the batteries here, we get the batteries, we produce them, and from that side we are ready to produce. And we, from the customer side, we actually are fully booked out till the end of the year. And also from the financing side, we have big investors on our side. We are just around to close our new financing round, and we closed our first financing round about 1 year ago. And right now we are 50 people in the company. Most of them are engineers, but of course also sales, also marketing and supply chain. So 50 people all overall, and most of them in the engineering sector.
Are there regulations about the battery? So in a car, it's out in the street or maybe it's in a garage. So just like gasoline, I don't keep it in my house. Now, if I'm suddenly bolting batteries on the side of my building, are there environmental regulations that you guys have to for hardening and things that make this a bit more challenging than simply taking the batteries and repackaging them?
Yeah, that's a little bit the problem in working in two worlds, because the one world is a car certification world where everything is certified for cars, and the other hand, we are in the home and in the energy market. So we have to kind of combine these two worlds together and always kind of see the gaps and feel the fulfillment of everything. And that's exactly what you're saying. That's what we said. We said, okay, we need a certification. So what can we use from the car industry? What do we have to do new? And that's kind of the challenge, because they are not always fitting together that much, and we don't have standards right now which are regulating this perfectly. I mean, there is a standard, for example, in Germany, which is getting built up right now, and I'm actually sitting in the working area, on the working field of them, and working with them in the working group. So there will come a few in the future, but right now it's very difficult. And for the certification, we had to put a lot of effort in there. And now we got the first certified product in this field, but it's a challenge to operating in these two worlds.
And then, assuming this works, you said you had project up for some 6 weeks, 6 months. I didn't catch what you said. Um, what kind of economic savings are industrial customers expecting when they go this road? So you talked about the price point to buy this, but the ROI isn't in the acquisition generally. It's probably over the 10 years that you talked about. So
Um,
how are
it,
you
al- it
helping them
always
save money, or are you helping them save money?
Yeah, of course. So it's always when most of the customers which are coming to us are saying, "I want to change environmentally something," and that's kind of the door opener. But like after a short period of time, it's coming, of course, to the economy areas, and therefore ROI is, of course, one of the most important factors what we are having. In general, I can say when we go in with self-consumption optimization, we are around 10 years roundabout. And then our add-ons are coming, and then we're saying, okay, we can do peak shaving, we can to integrate this one, and we can go for that. So our standard right now, it was better when the energy prices were higher. It was around 3 years, and now we are back to around 6 years of return of invest. So that's kind of the average. Of course, it always depends on the company because they have all different consumptions of the energy, but in general, we can drop out that number.
But that is based on that they have solar or some kind of renewable energy source available already that they're taking advantage of, or is this kind of net new?
Yeah, that's generally the standard use case, self-consumption optimization. Though you need a solar system,
Hmm.
and then adding on something else. But also we have customers who are just doing peak shaving or just want to have a backup power, because backup power, of course, is a use case which is kind of hard to monetize and say, okay, for backup power supply, it's valid this and this, because it always depends on the customer as well. What's happening when you don't have backup power supply? If they're just getting I don't know, getting a few cooling systems not running anymore and have to throw away some food, or if there is like a process of manufacturing and you're losing millions of years when you stop the process. So therefore, the backup is pretty hard to calculate, but in general, the rest is pretty easy.
Which I think is quite interesting, because if I look back from the years I've been working in energy, which has changed in the last year or something, that the actual backup was secondary in the past, because it was Europe. You always had energy. It was a tap that you just pulled on, and it was available. Whereas with the recent times, both with energy prices, but also with what's happening around in Europe, then this whole thing of security of supply became a much bigger issue, and not for the grid, but in general also for the companies. One little question around the customers that we mentioned, and I'm the commercial guy. I like to hear about the customers. How much of your customer base, or let's put it maybe moving forward, how much is kind of the corporate, the B2B part of this one, and how much is consumer, or maybe retweak the question? Do you see consumers as well, or is it more for B2B?
We started from the side of the consumers because it was just nearer to us, because
Yeah.
we have never been on a B2B market. So we said we want to do it for home storage market, and it was kind of our heart hanging on that home storage markets. But after a short time, we kind of noticed that you have a bigger impact when you say, I don't want to get small batteries in all these small households. I go for bigger battery packs. I just have one installation, and I have a lot of more power. I had a lot of more capacity in just one customer. So right at the beginning, after half a year, we said, okay, we kind of not do the consumer side. We are just going on B2B, and that's what we are doing right now. So we just are providing B2B customers. I mean, the smallest system we have is around 50 kilowatt hours. So this one is way too big for a normal household. And then the area what we are normally supplying is around 2, 3, 400 kilowatt hours, but can go up to like 5 megawatt hours as well.
Just to understand the business model a little bit better. So you mentioned cost of buying the batteries was less, but I assume that there's a service charge, that they're a continual customer of your organization throughout the life cycle. That's the plan? Yes.
Can you repeat it 1 second?
So if I'm using you to peak shave or manage my performance, I'm buying a service from you continually over the lifetime of this deployment. Yes.
Yeah, for these ones, for the battery, you have a standardized price, and then when you have, for example, energy management system integrate some of the charging station in there, you get a fee on there, and when you have intraday trading, you get a fee on there as well, or it's splitting of the profit. That's our model.
So is the customer then making a decision today that once they choose you, are they with you for the entire life expectancy, or can these assets be managed internally or by someone else in the future if they decide that you guys don't have the right model in the future or they want to evolve?
Yeah, we're open source, so it's or the heart of our energy management system is open source, so they can integrate it pretty easy into other systems as well. Of course, we want to have we want to manage all the energy at the customer in the future as well. But if they see, okay, it's not the right way to go with Voltfang, we need something else. It's pretty easy to say, okay, we change the energy management system and just running the battery as it is.
So as we're pushing up against time, I guess where do you see this going? So you said there's a supply, there's a fine balance from what you described of supply and demand. Because if you get too much demand, it's hard to meet it. So how do you see this growing in the near term? What's your vision of, how do you get the whole DAC market over the next few years? How do you take over the world?
That's a good question, and a question I really like, actually, because when you see the batteries and you see the assets, just the assets, you see, okay, we can do a environmentally impact with the batteries just when we put it into the systems and into households or into companies. But what I'm really into, and what a lot of people here I really want to be part of, is the energy transition as a whole. That we don't see our batteries just as an asset. We can say, okay, of course we get a lot of cheaper batteries from cars in there. We can get them to customer, but then to go into the direction of a virtual power plant and say, when the customer A has too much energy, he can move it forward to customer B. And when we have a low price on energy right now, we can charge up our batteries, stabilize the grid with this one, and then really have an impact. Because we cannot say we just see it from a customer side, or we just see it from a small energy customer side, because it's too narrow-minded, in my opinion. Of course, it saves money for the customer in the short term, but in a big term, we have to use the digitalization to get the energy transition right. Because when we get more wind in there, when we get more sun in there, we need to stabilize the grid, and it's just not possible to not connect everything together. And I think batteries will be one of the major parts to support all of these. Not the only one, but one of the major parts.
And I love the story in general, and I think I see passion when there is, and I see this the whole part of it, the whole transition around it. One final question before we start wrapping up, and that is, as a startup and a scale-up company focusing on these batteries, making sure that you want to be part of this energy transition, how much feedback do you get from customers? Are they on the same track, or is this purely a financial part saying, yeah, we want to be sustainable, but at the end of the day, hey, give me the energy savings and we're fine? Or are the majority of customers, especially early on in the adopters of these, also thinking long term that yes, we also want to be part of this one?
That's actually a point where, from our point of view, it's getting really difficult, because we are a startup like this, or a scale up. We are innovative, and the customers are coming to us from the point of the early adopters. So I see our customers kind of through the glasses of early adopters, because all the early adopters are coming to us, and that's cool. And everybody, or most of the customers who want to go the journey with us, are like totally involved, and like want to bring something or make something to happen and bring the energy transition on the way. That's the customers we are talking every day here, and I love it to talk to them and see also their energy to be part of that one. But of course, that's not the average on the market. The average on the market is a majority, and therefore we have to always keep in mind, okay, these people are doing it with a passion, but we also need the people who are not doing it with passion, who are just looking at numbers and saying, okay, I want to have a system here, I want to save money, and I want to do that one for the future of my company. And therefore, we always have to keep that in mind, and to fulfill both ways. That we, on the one hand, we kind of show, okay, we want to go the energy transition. On the other hand, we have always economic reason ready, and to bring it as easy as possible to the customers, because the normal customer is not too much into energy sector. The normal customers just want to have a system which is running, which is saving money. And therefore, we try to get both on the marketing side ready right now, so that we are not stuck in the early adopter area.
Which is a great answer, because I think it hits two stones, or two birds in one stone, where you can have the energy transition and save the cost.
Exactly.
It's been fantastic to have you on the show, and we really look forward to see more about this, where it heads up. We try to follow our scale ups that we have on the show as much as possible because we're fascinating about them. So all the best in the future, Roman, and thanks for joining Insider's Guide to Energy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And for our audience, we hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have. It's been another fantastic episode. If you like the content, please follow, subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on our YouTube channel as well. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.